This video is brought to you by Sailrite. In this video, we'll show you how to sew up your very own Neckroll pillow, and this pillow will include piping. You can pick your favorite fabric and the supplies needed to make your own at Sailrite. Our Neckroll pillow is being used on a sailboat, so we're going to pick the best brand of outdoor and indoor fabric in the world, umbrella upholstery or furniture fabric. Let's get started and show you how it's done. We will need to take some measurements from the pillow form, or sometimes called pillow insert. The size of the pillow is printed on the bag or tag, but for a truly great fitting cover, take your own measurements. Start by measuring the length or width of the pillow form. Measure from seam line to seam line. This pillow measures 19.5 inches. Next, measure the diameter. It's about 6 inches. You can calculate the circumference by multiplying by pi 3.14, but we recommend you take measurements around the pillow center with a soft tape measure for a true circumference measurement. We will need 2 round end covers and 1 rectangular body cover. With those measurements you just took, add 1 inch for seam allowance to each. This extra 1 inch will allow us to make a cover that is exactly the same size as the pillow form itself, since a ½ inch will be taken up for seam allowance on all sides. If you prefer plumper pillow covers, meaning the cover fits tighter over the insert, just use a ½ inch when patterning instead of the 1 inch. Then, when you sew it together using your ½ inch, your pillow cover will be smaller by about a ½ inch on all sides, making it plumper. Now we will simply mark our decorative fabric from Sailrite to size using a yardstick and a pencil. Let's start by making the round end covers. There are multiple ways this can be done. Here Angela is going to find the center of 7 inches and mark it. Then she marks the 2 sides at 0 inches and 7 inches with the yardstick centered. Then rotate the yardstick, keeping it centered on your center mark and again marking it. Do this until you have enough reference points to trace the circle. If you prefer, you can use a string and a pin at the center location. The diameter of our circle was 6 inches, so with the 1 inch added, our circle diameter that we're drawing on this fabric is 7 inches. We're going to cut out our fabric with scissors, but if you are cutting a synthetic fabric like umbrella, you may want to consider cutting it out with a hot knife to help keep the edges from unraveling. We will need 2 round end covers, so use the first one and trace around it to make the second. Now we will concentrate on making the rectangle for the main body panel. When we measured the circumference of our pillow, we got 19 inches. So 19 inches plus 1 inch for seams is 20 inches. We'll mark that on the fabric. Next, we need to mark for the length of the pillow. When we measured our pillow form from seam to seam, we got 19.5 inches. We need to add 1 inch for seams. So the next side of the rectangle is 20.5 inches for ours. Mark the fabric and strike lines, then cut it out. Our Neckroll pillow will be sewn shut, so we will fold the main body panel in half along its length side and sew a straight stitch about a ½ inch away from the raw edges. This stitch should only be about 4 to 6 inches long, and be sure to reverse or tack stitch at the beginning and the end of your sewing to lock the stitch in place. Once this is done, do the same for the opposite end. This opening in the center will make it possible to insert the pillow form or insert into the cover after the 2 round ends are sewn to the assembly. We have found it easier to sew the decorative umbrella piping to the main body panel ends first. To do this, place the end of the piping so it extends a few inches past the seam you just made. Then sew the piping in place along the ends of the panel. We are sewing it with the Sailrite 111 sewing machine with a 1/4 inch cording foot installed on the sewing machine. If your sewing machine cording foot is too small, you can also sew the piping in place using a roping zipper foot. Notice that we're trying to keep the piping stitch right alongside the piping cording, and we are sewing the stitch so it is about a ½ inch away from the raw edges of the fabric. The flange on this decorative umbrella piping is about 5/8 of an inch wide, so you will see a slight amount of the piping flange sticking over the raw edge of the fabric, as we try to place the cording a ½ inch away from the edge. Just because we're using a cording foot does not mean that it will automatically feed perfectly straight and also consistently in the tunnel of the foot. You do have to guide both the assembly and the piping as you sew, so take your time and go slow. When we get to the first end, where we started sewing, we will cross the two ends of the piping on top of each other and sew over them. This will result in a nice junction for the two ends. Watch here as Angela does that. Then when you get to the first stitch, do some more reversing to lock the stitch in place. Cut the piping tails off with scissors, then repeat that same procedure for the other end of the Neckroll pillow. Here's what it should look like. Our initial calculations included for 1/2-inch seams, and if you measure, this is exactly what we have. Position one of the round end caps on the end of the main body. The main body should be wrong side out. Start sewing about 1 inch away from the piping crossover. Lower your cording presser foot over the piping cording so it's in the tunnel. Or if you're using a roping zipper foot, lower it so the foot is right next to the piping cord. Carefully sew it in place, guiding the assembly so the stitch is sewn right beside the piping cord. As you sew, keep the stitch a 1/2 inch from the edges of the round end cap. This will ensure that it will fit perfectly when sewn all the way around. Notice that as Angela sews, the round end cap edges seem to be puckering. That is normal when sewing a round assembly. If you like, you can cut 1/4 inch slits about every inch into the round end cap edges, which sometimes aids in keeping puckerings from creeping into the exposed areas of the pillow cover. If you have difficulty with this task, you can also staple the end cap to the main body assembly to help hold it in place as you sew. Then, after it's sewn, you can remove the staples. Those are just helpful hints. We are sewing with a heavy-duty sewing machine, the Sayrite 111 sewing machine with the MCSCR power system, and it has no problem sewing over the piping crossover. But if yours does, you may need to walk the sewing machine by hand over this assembly and help the sewing machine feed over the large bump. Then when we reach the start position of our sewing, we will reverse to lock the stitch in place. Then you'll repeat this procedure on the opposite end. When both ends are sewn on, turn the assembly right side out and inspect your work. If you need to make modifications or sew closer to the piping cord, you should do it now. Ours is perfect, so we can now insert the pillow form or pillow insert into the cover. Sayrite sells a very high quality Neckroll pillow form, so we'll use that. Once it is in place, all we need to do is sew the opening of the cover shut. To do this, we will create a 1/4 inch fold on the two raw edges of the fabric, then pin them together using straight pins. This will make it much easier to keep the hems and the folds exactly where we want them to be as we sew the cover shut. Now we can sew a straight stitch, reversing at the beginning to lock the stitch in place, very close to the folded edge of the opening. Take your time here and go slow, because this stitch will be visible on the outside of your cover. As you sew up to each pin, you should remove it. Angela has pushed the pillow form back in an attempt to keep it away from the area she is now sewing. Then, when we finally get to the spot where we previously sewed, we will do some more reversing. The Bolster pillow, or Neckroll pillow, is now complete. How about adding a little more style to the pillow by adding fabric button forms? We'll show you how to do that next. To make the fabric button form, we will use a contrasting fabric color, button forms, twine, and a long hand needle. We will trace around the button form on this fabric, leaving a ½ inch of extra fabric around the form. Then cut it out with scissors. Creating fabric button forms can be a long and tedious job which requires patience. Typically, with a little patience, you can finish the fabric button form in about 3 to 4 minutes each. Your task? Tuck the excess fabric in along the sides, trying to catch the fabric to the teeth of the metal form edges. You may need to cut away some of the fabric if it's a thicker fabric. Once you're happy with the way the fabric lays over the top of the button, you can place the button's back over the back side, lining up the thread eye with the slit opening, and push it in place until it clicks on. If too much fabric is stuffed inside, cut some of it away. The fabric button form is now done. After making another, we are ready to install it to the pillow. We will use a pre-waxed twine and a long hand needle to do this. Angela will tie a knot on the end of the twine so she can run the free end through the knot to secure the button, similar to how luggage tags are secured. Now find the center on the pillow and mark it on both ends with a pencil. With the long hand needle, insert it through the center of the pillow and compress the pillow so it exits out the opposite side in the center. Once it exits, grab it and then pull it through completely. Next, cut the twine, leaving about 6 inches, so another button can be fastened easily. Secure a second button to the twine. We will now pull on the twine until we get the desired look or compression of the button on the opposite end. Once we are happy with the way the buttons look, we will tie off the second button, hiding the knot behind the button itself. We like to use a pre-waxed twine from Sailrite because it does not easily come untied and it's very strong. A normal heavy-duty twine can also be used here. The bolster pillow is now complete. The materials and tools list that we use to make this Neckroll pillow is coming up next. You will find hundreds of fantastic fabrics at Sailrite. We used this umbrella upholstery fabric or furniture fabric, which is excellent for both indoor and outdoor applications. You should also find many high-quality Neckroll pillow forms in various sizes at Sailrite. For more free videos like this, check out the Sailrite website or subscribe to the Sailrite YouTube channel. It's your loyal patronage to Sailrite that makes these free videos available. Thanks for your loyal support.